Hi, welcome to Signs from Heaven. I'm Christine Duminiak, and I'm so glad you came, especially the people that I arm wrestled to come in today who went past my table downstairs. So thank you so much for that. It was a high pressure pitch. I'm going to ask you if you will all just put your hands out like this, turn to the person beside you with your arms out, and give them a hug. No kissing allowed, please.
I know, right? That's easy.
And now I'm going to ask you, the person that you just hugged, if you would say a silent prayer for them, or however you pray, your own way, or just positive thoughts. And I'm going to pray for you the way I pray, so I hope you don't mind. Heavenly Father, please bless everyone who's here today. Heal their broken hearts. Let them know that their loved ones are still with them, a huge part of their lives. And please bless them with many, many signs of their presence. I ask this in your Son's name, amen. Now, you might wonder, how does somebody get into the field of afterlife contacts or signs from heaven? Believe me, when people used to tell me about this kind of thing, I thought, this is kind of odd, but I'll be polite and I'll just nod my head and smile. Until March of 1998, when my dead in-laws showed up in my bedroom one night and stayed for an hour. I go, whoa, what is this? And I woke my husband up and I said, your parents are here, your parents are here. Now, he knows I'm a grounded person, and he said, well, where? But he was not able to see them like I was able to see them that night. But I knew he believed me because I saw him praying to them, his mouth was, and then they stayed for about an hour, and I couldn't hear them, I could just see them. And I was like so excited. I said, I can't believe you're here, I can't believe you're here. I must have repeated that 100 times, but I didn't hear anything back. And then finally I said, well, I'm falling off to sleep now. It was 4 o'clock in the morning when they came, and it was now 5. So I said, I'm going to go back to sleep, and I waved goodbye, and I said, thank you for coming, and they waved back. It was unbelievable. Well, I became an instant believer, of course. When dead people show up in your bedroom, you're going to believe, right? So the next night, they came back again. I thought, whoa, what is this? Why would they keep coming back? Maybe this is a warning. My husband had cancer in the past, and we thought that he was in remission. But I thought maybe they want him to get a checkup. So I said, go see the doctor just in case the cancer came back and they're warning us. I figured, why else would they come? So I went on a quest to find out what this was all about. And I found out that my experience is called an after-death communication, an ADC, or a sign from heaven. And what an ADC is, it's a spontaneous contact from a deceased family member or friend, and a direct one, without the use of psychics, devices, or mediums. So directly to you or someone else in your family they may visit. And I found myself getting involved in spiritual bereavement support work. And I noticed that people who were getting a sign seemed to be so much more at peace with the passing of their loved ones. But those who did not get a sign were desperate for one because they just needed to know that their loved one was okay. And I think everybody feels that way. We want to know that our loved ones are okay. So I decided, this was 2 years later, and by then my own dad had passed. And I was getting so many signs from him, even the day that he crossed over. Oh, he's here now. He always massages the top of my head when he's around. Daddy! So anyway, I was getting so many great signs from my dad. I was smiling all the time. I mean, even at his viewing, I couldn't stop smiling because I kept saying to myself, my dad's not in that box. He's in this room with us. And I didn't want to look like I wasn't sorry that my dad had passed. So I tried to not to smile so much, but I was just so happy that he was contacting me. It just made my heart feel wonderful. So when I was coming across people who were desperate to get a sign, I thought there must be something that we could do for them to help them. And I thought, you know, I believe in the power of prayer, and especially group prayer. I thought it was very, very powerful. So I founded a group called Prayer Wave for After-Death Communication. And our mission was to pray for people who wanted an afterlife sign. And we did this every Friday. I started out with a message board, and now we have a Facebook group where we do that every Friday. And it's a safe place to come and share your spiritual experiences, because lots of times if you tell people like me, before dead people showed up in my bedroom, they would just say, oh yeah, sure. So it's a safe place to come and share your experiences with like-minded people who have had experiences themselves, and we celebrate any signs that you may get. And over time, it became apparent from the signs that they were getting that prayer really does work, because we were getting an abundance of signs, and that our loved ones were still a huge part of our lives. They were coming to all those celebrations that we care about, the birth of a baby, a wedding, anniversaries. They would show us in some way that they were there celebrating with us. And that's a great feeling to know that they're not missing out on anything. And it also became apparent that there are about 20 common ways that our loved ones use to let us know that they're around, and even more than 20. And friends from my Prayer Wave group kept saying, Chris, you should write a story, write a book about our experiences. And I said, no, I'm not really a writer. I don't feel good about that. But they kept saying it over and over again. And when people tell you the same thing, you should really pay attention. So I said, well, God, if you really want me to do this, I need a sign, or 2 or 3. And I got those signs to go ahead, because I thought, I'm not going to invest my time and effort if this is not what I'm supposed to do. So I got those signs, and I said, okay, I'm going with it. And my group submitted their stories, and it came about in the book called After-Death Communications, God's Gift of Love. I'm sorry I sold out of it already, but you can get it on Amazon if you're interested in buying the book. So I'd like to now go over some of the types of signs that we get from our loved ones. Dreams. Dreams are a very common way in which our loved ones will visit us. Now, some people will say, well, dreams are just dreams, aren't they? But really, validations can come in dreams to let you know that they are really there. They might give you some advanced information that you may not be aware of, but it comes true later. But there's 2 types of dreams. Maybe 3 types of dreams. There's the vivid, comforting dream that we get from our loved ones. But a lot of people get dreams that are very upsetting to them, where their loved one looks like they're suffering, they're lost, they're ignoring them. Just something to make them feel even more disturbed than they were before they went to sleep. And what I would like you to know, if you're getting that type of dream, it's not a true visit from your loved one. God sends our loved ones to us to bring us comfort. So if you're finding that you're getting that kind of dream, just ask for God's holy protection before you go to bed at night. And you will see that will shift. That will stop happening. But do it faithfully. Do it faithfully, and you'll see you'll start to get the kind of dreams that you want. Also, on your handout, I've given you tips for getting a dream visit. It's also in my book. And you can get it by going on my website, too. I'd like to tell you about a validating dream that one of my Prayer Wave members had. One night, her 18-year-old son, Brian, was going to a carnival with an acquaintance, and his mom, Phyllis, felt very uncomfortable about this acquaintance. She just did not have a good feeling. So it was getting late, and her son wasn't home yet, and she went to bed. And she had this really nice dream that she and Brian were on their favorite ride in Disney World, A Small World. And after the ride was over, Brian walked away with two women dressed in white gowns. And just then, she felt this bolt of electricity go right through her and woke her up, and she noticed it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, the next day, she got notified that her son, Brian, was murdered at 1 o'clock in the morning. So he was coming to tell her, goodbye, I'm going off to heaven, don't worry about me. So a few months later, things got better for Phyllis because Brian came again in a dream. And this time, they were in her kitchen. And he said, Mom, I love where I am now. He said, I really do. I want you to be happy for me. Come, I'm going to show you where I am. So he grabbed her hand, and they went off, and they went to a place where everything was all white, except for the vibrant color of the flowers. And Phyllis saw this footbridge, and she sensed there were a lot of people on the other side of the footbridge, and she saw like white dwellings, and she really wanted to go over and check it out. And he said, no, Mom, it's not yet your time. He said, but I want you to know I'm so happy and at peace. The only thing that makes me sad is seeing you cry all the time. He said, so please just be happy for me. We're going to be together again. And I love that dream visit because I think it's a message for everybody that they're happy, we're going to be together again. I like to think of my loved ones off on vacation. And then when they give me signs of these little postcards that they're having a good time, but yet they're still visiting me in some way. So I think that's a really wonderful message I always like to share with people, that they want us to go on with our lives and be happy. It makes them happy if we can really try and do that. I know some people feel guilty if they're smiling and laughing. Believe me, they're smiling and laughing in heaven. They want that for you too, so never feel guilty. They know that you miss them and that they will always be in your heart. Don't worry about what anybody else says. Your happiness, your smile helps other people. It's like paying it forward to other people. It just spreads. So never feel shy about enjoying yourself and spreading joy to other people. Now, children can see and hear spirits too. I don't know how many times you might have been around babies that are saying, they're mentioning the person's name who has passed, and they'll tell you like, why aren't you letting Grammy into the room, Mommy? And of course, Grammy had died like a year ago, and where's Grammy? So children see and hear spirits all the time, and I wrote a book about it called Heaven Talks to Children, because if people can't believe other adults' experiences, children are very innocent and they tell it like it is. So if you wonder if they live on, I would read stories about children's experiences because they're so innocent and they never hold back. Audio. You may hear a voice inside of your ear or outside of your ear. They may say your name. That's one of the ways that, and yet there's nobody around when it happens, so you know that, hey, somebody's here. Music. Music is a great way for them to, you might just happen to turn on the radio and a song that connects you to them just happens to come on the radio. This is them. I remember when the last days of my dad in the hospital, we all took turns staying overnight to keep him company. And I took over a Frank Sinatra tape because he loved Frank Sinatra. And I played that all night long. So after my dad passed, the first thing he did was come back with a Frank Sinatra song. And it was that night after he passed, I heard all this Frank Sinatra music in my head. And then for about 9 months after that, every morning when I would just wake up, still half awake, half asleep, I would hear a Frank Sinatra song playing in my head. And I said, oh, good morning, Daddy. How nice of you. And then I would go to places where they shouldn't be playing Italian music, and they were playing Frank Sinatra songs. And it was so funny. One night I went to this, it was oldies night, and they were playing Motown music. I don't know if you know that, the Temptations, the Miracles. And there was a DJ, and I was with a friend, and I said, you know, my dad always uses Frank Sinatra music. And she said, oh, that's so cool, I love Frank Sinatra. I love Summer Wind. And I said, oh, that's really cool, I like that too. 10 minutes later, the DJ puts on Summer Wind, right? I said, and we look at each other and said, do you believe this? Is this the best? And then right after that, it went back to Motown music again. And so I knew my dad heard us talking about him and he was showing off a little bit, so it was really, really cute. Touches. You may feel someone touching your hair, rubbing your shoulder, just patting you on the cheek, even giving you kisses. My dad, as I said, massages the top of my head when he's around, and my mother will like tickle the left side of my cheek so I know who is who. And since he started the massaging first, I know that's him. So when we're at like a family get-togethers, my dad will come along and he'll massage the top of my head, and I'll say to everybody, "Daddy's here!" And they say, "Hey, Daddy!" So they all know that he communicates that way, and they like knowing that he's around. Presence. A lot of people will feel the chills going through them or a feeling of peace when they're around. You might even, spirit energy is very strong, and sometimes your ears will close up when they're in the room with you. So that is a way of knowing that, you might even feel the weight on your bed. You might feel like someone's on your bed with you. Not trying to scare you, they're just trying to let you know that they're there with you. Pets have an uncanny ability. Please stay awake in the front there. You're in the front. Isn't that awful? I do that in church all the time. Pets have an uncanny ability to see and hear spirits, just like children do. But a really cool thing about pets is, in addition to people that come back and visit us, pets also come back and visit us. I've had a number of different pets visit us. You might hear like the sound that they usually make when they're around, and then you look over and they're not there, but or they would do something like they would jump on a rocking chair when they were around in their physical body, and then you're walking in the room and you see the rocking chair rocking on its own. So I've had a cockatiel visit me, I've had a dog visit me, I've had a chicken when I was a kid come visit me. I said, where have you been all these years? You remembered me. So yes, pets also do too. So they like to be around us, and God sends them back and forth so they can be with us and comfort us. Because I think pets are like our little children at times. Scents, the scent of them. You may suddenly smell like their cologne, tobacco, maybe they were a great baker and you smelled something that they were baking, and it just kind of like materializes out of nowhere. So that is them, or it might be a floral smell when they're around. So take notice of that. And I remember after my dad passed, and people said to my mom, do you want us to send flowers or donate to charity? And she said, donate to charity. And then the day of the viewing, she said, we don't have enough flowers. I'm so embarrassed. I said, what do you expect? You told everybody to give to charity. So anyway, when my mom passed, I said, please give flowers, because I think she's going to haunt me if she doesn't have flowers at her viewing. So I went home from the viewing and the funeral, and I was just lying on my bed, just trying to rest from everything, and I smelled this really strong bouquet of flowers around me. And I felt that was my mom saying thank you for the flowers, so I really appreciated that. So yeah, take note of their scents. Electrical. They may suddenly turn your TV on or channel surf to some maybe commercial or show that they want you to see that connects you to them. They can turn on video games, your computer. They can open and close your garage door. They can signal you with their lights in the room, touch lamps. So some of them really excel at electricity, and I'm not really sure why, but there must be a reason. I mean, they are energy. So take notice of that, and don't just dismiss it as an oddity. Anything that's really kind of odd or peculiar, take notice, because it's usually a sign from them. And they want you to notice it, so they do something odd, so you will notice that they're around. Oh yeah, doorbell's ringing and there's nobody there. That's another one too. And I'm not talking about Halloween, I'm just talking about your doorbell ringing. And one of my friends who wrote a story in my book her grandmother had asked her to come over with her new baby. She wants to see her, and she kept making excuses. She didn't have the time. And when you know, her poor grandmother passed without seeing the baby, and she really felt very, very guilty about that. So it was the day of the funeral, and she was going up the steps to tend to her baby, and the doorbell rang. So her husband opened the door, and nobody was there. And then my friend said she smelled the scent of her grandmother going right by her on the stairs. She followed it up into the baby's room. So she said, well, with or without you, I'm coming to see that baby. And so she did. Oh, computers. They often use computers. They may send you an email from them, or something, an old email from them, or a picture of themselves, or just something that you know, there's no real reason how you can explain why that happened, or music that they like might start playing on your computer. This lady's nodding her head at everything that I'm saying, so I love it. Oh, birds, dragonflies, animals, insects, they often use these. If you find that, any kind of a bird or insect or animal acts like they know you, or they're doing something peculiar. I mean, a butterfly may just stay on your shoulder, or you might find one constantly flying around you, or birds that are staring at you. Think loved ones. This is from your loved ones. When my dad was my favorite golf buddy, and it really bothered me to go out and golf without him. And so the first year, every time I went out to golf, I noticed that there would be a hawk that would come out of nowhere, fly overhead, circle over me, flap his wings, and fly off. And I felt so comforted because I knew it was my dad, that he was golfing with me, and maybe he was helping me a little bit, because God knows I need help out there. So, and this happened like the first year, every time I went out. And so one time, I called it ahead of time. I was on the first tee with my husband and son, and I said, be on the lookout for a hawk. And they said, why? And I said, don't you ever listen to me? My dad comes as a hawk. 1 minute goes by, doesn't this hawk fly over us, circles around, flies off, and they looked at me like, oh, maybe there is something to this. I said, yeah, and hopefully it helps me get a good score out here. There's a really good story. Kevin and Kathy had a son, and when he was about 22, he died of complications of juvenile diabetes. And they noticed that after he passed, they were getting so many dragonflies. Sometimes it would be one, sometimes it would be hundreds in numbers. So one day, the dad, Kevin, was driving his tractor trailer, and he was just talking to his son like we all talk to our loved ones. And he said, you know, John, I could really use a new pair of work gloves. These are no longer protecting my hands. 20 minutes goes by, and he sees something on the side of the road, which made him just want to check it out. So he pulls over his trailer, and he gets out, and what does he see? A brand new pair of work gloves on the side of the road, and a dragonfly on top of it. Dragonfly being the sign of his son. So, I mean, how awesome is that? So, yeah, they really do these things for us. Telepathic. You may hear, it might sound like your own voice talking to you, but it's not really your thoughts. And they usually will repeat what they're trying to say for emphasis. So, take notice of that. I remember when my dad had passed, it was the first Easter, and my sister didn't believe in signs, and my mother and I did, and we used to always get together and say, hey, you know what Dad did today? And we've had so much fun. And then my sister would walk out of the room because she just didn't believe us. And I felt like she was pushing herself away from us. And my mom used to pray like crazy, please let her believe, please let her believe. So it was the first Easter after our dad passed. And it was the first holiday. And it was going to be tough for all of us. So my sister went out to the cemetery and she said, Daddy, just please talk to me. And she heard, take care of mommy, take care of mommy, take care of mommy. And she heard this in her head. And I couldn't believe that you shared this with me for someone who was so stubborn about it. And then, like I said, my mother had prayed like mad that my sister would believe. So after my mother passed, she really went after my sister. She was giving her all kinds of signs that she couldn't even deny. And she'd call me up, guess what she did today? So, oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. You finally believe. Now she'll leave you alone. Oh, visions. Visions of them. Now, sometimes you might catch someone out of the corner of your eye, and that's a spirit that you're seeing. Or they might be like my in-laws, where they just show up in your room, and I don't think many of us really want that. You think you want that, but it's kind of like nerve-wracking to have a spirit in your room. And so a nice way is for them to come in a dream. At least it's not disconcerting in a dream. You may see them in your mind's eye. I think that's what maybe psychics and mediums do. They see things in their mind's eye, like right up here. Or you may see them in a mirror, or looking in a window, or sometimes they will actually superimpose their face on someone else's face to let you know that they know you're thinking of them, and to just make your heart feel a little bit more comforted. But after you get up to that person, you realize it really wasn't your loved one, but they will do that just to let you know that they are around you. It's kind of an odd thing, but for a moment in time, you feel like, oh, they're here, look, I see him again, or I see her again. It's really nice, and when that happens, it's just a reminder of them. Now, they can move things. They can move objects. Like if you can't find your keys, and you'll say, oh, please help me find my keys, and then they mysteriously show up. Or you lost an earring, ladies nodding yes. Or you lost an earring, and you say, please help me find my earring, and they will do that for you. And they'll even like take things to have fun with you. My dad has done that a few times. He's taken something, and I knew exactly where I put it because it was a ritual. And I would look all over, and then like 2 minutes later, it would be back, and I said, oh, he's showing off again, showing you what he can do with his supernatural powers now. Phone calls. You might get a phone call, but nobody's on the end. Or it might be their caller ID, but you know that phone has been disconnected. Or their cell phone. You might get a text message from their cell phone, and you know that cell phone has been disconnected or given back. Same lady's nodding her head, yes. She should be giving this talk. That's so cool. I have a really good story to tell you. There was two best friends, Braden and Jim, and they went kayaking and they got lost. They were never found again. And their mothers, Vicki and Mary Jo, became very close. And Vicki started to notice that she was getting these phone calls and messages left on her answering machine, and it was a digital answering machine. And the message would be left after she was given the time and the day from the computer-generated voice. I mean, the area where the answering machine doesn't record, and yet she was getting those, and they were from her son. And so she kept saying, I think I'm going crazy, and she kept like deleting them. And then one day, her son was a rapper, and he did that, and he rapped lyrics. And she said, oh my gosh, this is really him. So she called over his buddies, and she said, what do you think? They said, oh my gosh, that is really Braden, that's really him. So she saved that. And one day she had the other mom, Mary Jo, come over to listen to it. And Mary Jo was like so taken aback, and she said a prayer right there, and she said, dear God, please let my son Jim be able to do that too. I want one of those. So the two ladies were sitting down, chatting, having coffee, and the phone rings. And so Vicki says, oh, I'll just let it, answer machine get it. And they heard Jim's voice saying, I'll come again. How about that? Isn't that something? A direct answer to prayer. So I love that story. Pictures. There might be a picture of them. It might fall off the wall, or their picture might go over flat. or it might be crooked all of a sudden. This is them. They're not trying to scare you. They just want you to know that they're around and they know that you're thinking of them and they're thinking of you too. Or you might find something like a birthday card left out on your birthday from like years ago, and it's on the floor, and you, well, how did that get there? Well, as I said, they can move things, and they will do that to let us know that they're thinking of you too. Coins, you've heard of pennies from heaven. So after my dad passed, he was leaving me dimes, and when my mother passed, she started leaving me pennies, and my mother was always the thrifty one in the family. She with her. And so sometimes I'd find the dime and the penny side by side, just let me know that we're both here with you. And I used to say, well, you know, you could leave me $100 bills. I wouldn't mind that, right? But we'll take whatever we can get, right? So, sometimes those coins will have significant dates on them too. Maybe the date of their birthday or something that's significant to you. So also check out those dates. They use license plates or other things like billboards where you get a message, maybe their name will be on there, or you're feeling really down and they'll say something like, you know, feel joy, or just an uplifting message, and you know that's from them. And you know how you know? When they give us a sign, they will give us a simultaneous thought that this is from them, and that's why you notice, because they're giving you that thought, sort of like the telepathic thought. Pay attention, this is from me. Rainbows, sometimes like a rainbow might be your particular sign. It's not raining, and a beautiful rainbow or a double rainbow will form in the sky, and you know that's for you. They use cloud formations. Sometimes you can actually see their face in the clouds, or an angel. Or some people I know, hearts they always find heart rocks, anything to do with hearts, heart leaves. And they'll see cloud formations with a heart, and they know that's for them. Feathers. Feathers are a really big one. A lot of people look at feathers. And I'm not just talking about one time. I'm talking about like over and over. And you might only get one feather if it's really significant, like they were in the field of saving birds or rescuing birds or something like that. Well, you'll know it's for you. And they will repeat their signs because they know that you'll get it. And if you do get it, they will repeat those signs. If you say thank you, they will repeat those signs because they want you to have that gift from them. It's from their heart to yours to let you know that they're with you. And they want to give you those moments of joy. So it's a gift from them. So I would say, if you're going to err on the side of accepting the gift. Don't overanalyze it, my goodness. Just accept the gift and say thank you. And I bet you'll get more of those. So, you know, some people just, there has to be a real explanation. No. Let's see. God incidences. These are when something like, you might think are coincidences, but I call them God incidences because they are a blessing from God for your loved one. For instance, you may have a memory garden that you're growing, and on the date of their birth or their anniversary or something that connects you to them, this flower will actually bloom. So, or someone, it might be your anniversary and someone doesn't know this, but they felt compelled to bring you flowers and they had no idea it was your anniversary. Well, that, as I said, our loved ones can put thoughts into our heads. So they gave them that thought because they couldn't physically give you the flowers, so they'll use someone else by giving them strong thoughts. Take those flowers over to mom, or whatever. So those are what I call God incidences. And like I said, if your first thought is, this is a sign from them, and then just accept it and say thank you, and be on the lookout for more. They all seem to have their own special ones they use over and over again. So for some people it might be electrical, for other people it might be feathers, or other people it might be coins. And they can do a lot, and if you just say thank you, they can do even more. Now some people wonder, how can I get an afterlife sign? And I have noticed over the years, there's really two ways to know and to get an afterlife sign. And I actually have it on the handouts. And before you leave, there's more handouts here. I believe that you don't have to pray to God, but if you pray to God, you certainly increase your chances of getting one. Because I have found, and I believe, that spirits really can't do anything without permission from the top guy. So ask him for an afterlife sign, a comforting one, and then state something specific to your loved one that you would recognize as a sign. For instance, a butterfly. So this way, when that butterfly, you get whatever you ask for. If you ask for a butterfly and you get that butterfly, you know you got your sign. So that's a great way to be sure that you got the sign that you want, that you got a sign after all, by being specific. Now, some people wonder, well, why did they come? Maybe they didn't make it all the way, and they worry about that, but they can only give us signs if they have supernatural powers from God. So if you're getting signs, you can feel your loved one is just A-okay, couldn't be better. And so feel at peace with that. They want you to know that they're okay, they're still a part of your lives, they can still see and hear you, and so you can still keep on talking to them. And write them letters, expressing your feelings. You may not have had a chance to say, goodbye, I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you. All those things that are in your heart that you'd like them to know, I would say just just have a picture of them in front of you, one of them smiling, and when they were healthy, and write your letter to them and read it out loud. It's a way to get it out of your system, so you're not holding that in all the time. So it's really important to do if you feel like you have unfinished expressions that you haven't been able to get out. And I always say, yes, you can say goodbye to the physical you, but hello to the new spiritual relationship that you're now going to have, because it never ends. It never ends. So never think that you just have to say goodbye. They're off in some black hole. They're not. They're like angels on our shoulders. So please try and keep that in mind. And anything you felt you need to say to them, it's not too late. It's never too late to say it, because they still see and hear us. Now, some people wonder, well, where are they? What is it like where they're at? And I love near-death experiences. I love to read them because it gives us so many insights into what heaven is like that I'm looking forward to going there someday. So my favorite near-death experience is by Betty Eady, Embraced by the Light, because she had such an in-depth experience and came back with so much of her memory from it still retained. And she saw God, she saw loved ones that had passed, she saw her angels, she saw mountains and rivers and valleys and beautiful sunsets and gardens and majestic buildings, and a place that they call the Library of Knowledge, which is, it's a room, she explains, this building that you go in, and anything that you kind of reflect on gets downloaded into you. It's sort of like a supercomputer, which was made in heaven first, before here. So it was such a wonderful place, and what I was really like touched by, she felt such unconditional love going through every cell of her being. She just never felt so loved, even though she knew that she was an imperfect person, as we all are, but she felt so loved and accepted. And she saw that they could, and she was able to also too fly by her thoughts, which is pretty cool. A lot of people have dreams of flying before they pass, so I think it's also a little bit of an insight into what's ahead. It's like a lot of fun. Some people, she saw that some people had jobs in heaven. They were trying to help newly arrived souls to be oriented into heaven. And sometimes, say maybe a person passed of an overdose, and they would like take under their wing someone else who had just recently passed from an overdose to get them oriented into heaven and to feel okay about being there and everything. she also saw that there were some spirits that were trying to corral others on earth to get married because they wanted to be born to that particular family. And they were like really trying to get them to have that chemistry or something so because they wanted to be born to that family. But what I really learned that really changed my world was that finding that we were actually created spirits in heaven with God before we came to earth. And that was like a really new concept for me because I always thought, oh, you're here, you're born, and that's where you began. And apparently, when we're in heaven with God, we have a plan. God has a plan. We volunteer for certain missions and lessons that we want to learn to help us grow spiritually stronger and closer to God. And we're helping other people that are our family members and friends also help them in some way grow stronger and closer to God also. And so they volunteer for lots of hard missions. Now, it seems pretty easy when you're in heaven and you're viewing it objectively and you say, well, why would anybody sign up for cancer? Duh. But yeah, it seems very doable when you're there. It's not tough until you're down here and you're going through it. But there's like spiritual growth involved with all of it. Things like the women who, the mothers against drunk driving, their children prompted them to go on a mission and educate people about the danger of drinking and driving. So they really, their daughters prompted them by returning home that way. And also, most of us, I found this out, which is very interesting, most of us actually know how we're going to die and agree to it. Now, some cases can be changed, of course, but this is what people with near-death experiences are showing us. So, and again, you say, why would you sign up for this? But it's all about spiritual growth. Now, I'm saying this, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but when you get to the other side, you'll find out why. But have you ever noticed that some of the really bad things that have happened to us have prompted us to help other people once we're stronger, so maybe they won't make the same mistakes that others that we have, or just, I find that the people that really touch other lives because of their tragedies are the ones that really find a purpose to why they're here. And that really could be why some of the things that happened to you have happened. And I would just say hold God's hand, ask Him to help you through it, because that is the best way I know. And I'm going to ask people now to share their stories of any afterlife signs they might like to share. But first I'm going to ask my dear friend Linda, because she has a story that will kind of like validate some of the things I'm telling you today that you may be having a hard time with. So Linda?
Hi everyone, my name is Linda Sheldon Bell, and I was born and raised north of Seattle, and just a mom, 4 kids, happily married. And in 2007, I had a dream, and in the dream, my third born, my teenage daughter Allie, was a backseat passenger in a car that flew off the road into a lake. And she went down with the car and never resurfaced. And the only thing that she left behind was an open book floating on the water. And I was so shaken up. It was one of those dreams that was so vivid, and it just terrified me. And so much so that I actually sought out a psychic medium. Please tell me this isn't a premonition. And she didn't see that it was a premonition. And for the next 2 years, I lived in peace. And on August 5th, 2009, my daughter Abby died as a backseat passenger in a car coming home from a swim meet. And in that moment, when I got the call that there had been an accident, it never crossed my mind that it was fatal. I thought it was a fender bender. I just couldn't go there. And by happenstance, or not, I got to go to the scene of the accident. And when I arrived, it was then that I realized it wasn't a fender bender. And I also realized my daughter was still there. And I got out of my car, and no one stopped me. And I made my way to the two crumpled cars in the field. The impact of the T-bone crash that pushed the cars off into a farmer's field. And there was my daughter on the ground with the white sheet over her. And I got to sit with her body. I don't know for how long I sat there. No one stopped me. It went against protocol, but no one stopped me. And I sat there holding her hand for however long. And then suddenly, I looked up into the dark field in front of me, and I saw my grandmother leading Allie away. And she had her arm around Allie like this, and I was looking at him, and Allie was turned like this, looking at me. And I said, "It's okay, Pooh Bear. It's okay." She was in the hands of someone that I had seen every day of my life, my beloved grandmother. So I knew she was safe. And that brought me tremendous peace. And how much more do you want to share?
Oh, we're going to ask people if they'd like to share also, because we have a time limit. But that's a beautiful, true story. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, but Linda didn't tell you the significance of the book. She's an author of 30 books now, and she had nothing to do with writing at that time. So this was a premonition of a divine plan. If her daughter had not passed, she never would have been the author that she is now, the Grief Diary books, helping so many people. And we believe this was all planned with her daughter in heaven. Very hard to take when you're here, but she's helping so many people. And if it hadn't been part of the divine plan, I believe she would have been spared. But because of that, you took your grief to help other people.
I turned my pain into purpose. And at the time the accident happened, I was just a mom. I was raising my family. I was no one any different from my neighbor next door. And what I didn't know then, that I know now, is that there was a purpose. And I would find my purpose a few years down the road. And now I am the creator of Grief Diaries, an award-winning book series that holds the stories of over 700 writers in 11 countries. And so you can find the books anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. I only have a few left downstairs. And just for those of you that stop by our table to say hello and give me a hug, thank you for blessing me. Because getting a hug from someone who speaks my lost language is so comforting, and I'm so grateful. And that was what Grief Diaries was about, was sharing, because shared sorrow is half the sorrow. So that's just one of many, many stories about academic communication.
And so we're going to take some time now to hear other people's stories, if they'd like to tell us about their signs, or if you have questions you'd like to ask. But at the end, there's going to be a short guided meditation, a healing one, with God, you, and your loved one. So if you want to stay for that, that'll be good. I know guys aren't into that too much, but okay. So, all right. All right. You have the microphone.
Hi, my name's Barbara, and
is that microphone on? It seems a little low.
yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? My name's Barbara, and I've lost both of my daughters. My older daughter, Sarah, passed away from a brain aneurysm in 2012, and her sister, my youngest daughter, they were best friends, passed away from heart complications in 2016. So Amy was still alive when Sarah passed, since Sarah crossed over first. I was at work, and I got a phone call, and I only lived a mile from work. I think I drove over getting home. And I could tell by all the, ambulances, all that it was bad. And Amy had gone in to wake her sister up, and she was gone. So when we went to bed that night, the next morning when I woke up, there was a shiny copper penny on the edge of the master bathtub. And I'm thinking, where did this come from? And so I probably threw it in the change bowl. But then we started getting all kinds of pennies. My mom and dad, Sarah, Amy, my husband, and I could have just vacuumed the carpeting in the hall, and I turn around and there's a penny. These are only a few of the pennies that I've
That's amazing.
I've got like tons of them.
Truly pennies from heaven.
It is. And the interesting part was, as this, continued on, and before Amy left us, when she would find a penny, would be offensive, she'd say, "Bitch, leave a 50."
I get that. Thank you so much.
Okay, hi, I'm Barbara, and I'm from Mesa, Arizona. I lost my son to colon cancer 15 months ago. I'm new to the conference, and I'm new to my grief. And something happened here yesterday. I was sitting at that lovely luncheon with a friend now, but I had never met her before. Her name is Trish, and she's right here. Trish, raise your hand. She was sitting next to me, and she noticed that I'm wearing my son's jacket because I like to wear it, plus it's cold. And she looked at my jacket, and she looked down on the floor and said, "There's a feather right there. Is it yours?" I said, "No." And she picked up the feather and gave it to me. I didn't see any birds flying around the majestic ballroom. And I just was overwhelmed by a feeling. My son was a bird rescuer. That was his hobby.
Hi, Kristen's mom. She died by suicide 2 years ago. She visits me in my dreams frequently. One of the first dreams she visited me in, she was telling me about heaven, and she said she has a job there. She appeared to me as a 13-year-old, even though she was 37 when she died. She said her job in heaven is to deliver the newsletter. Emptying out her pockets, she had like gum wrappers and stuff like a 13-year-old would. Then she got a little older, she got more serious because it was a suicide. She told me to tell her son she was very, very sorry that she had to leave him. We have serious conversations in the dreams that we have, and I've always been comforted to be able to talk with her that way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll go back to that side. This side, anyone over here? Oh, there's somebody in the back. Let's get this poor person in the back. The back people always get skipped over.
As I'm walking back there, I'm going to share one of my favorite stories. My son, our oldest son, was in his big redneck truck. Who raised their hand back here? Okay. And he came down the driveway, and he hopped out of his truck, left it on, and he hopped out. He was out for 2 minutes. When he got back in, there was this big something underneath his floor mat. And he thought, what the heck is that? And he pulled back the floor mat, and there was one of Allie's blue rocks. She used to spray paint in blue and leave them around the garden. And it was underneath his floor mat. He was out of his truck for 2 minutes. So
Oh, wow.
skeptics can take that one. And
She's a quick worker.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. When I was coming to the conference, we drove in from Maryland, and it was my first time presenting, so I was really nervous. And so I said to Stephen, gosh, he was fearless. he would get up and present things in high school and like never was nervous. So I said to him, just give me a sign and let me know that you're with me and give me some of that courage. Now, when he died at 12:12 in the morning. When we came here and registered, they put us in room 1212.
Oh, it's so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
He's here.
I'm Martha. Oh my God, I have so many.
Just one.
Yeah, no. My youngest son, Elijah, passed away 9 years ago. He was 16. And Joshua just passed this February. He was 28. So, talk about signs. I was washing bird poop off my car. So, I had my hand full of bird poop. And I don't know if you know the Ring doorbell. So, my phone rings. So again, I have my garage door open and my doorbell rings. Not once, but twice. I'm like, who's gonna ring the doorbell? I have my garage open. My hand's full of bird poop. So I go around to curse somebody out. And there's nobody there. Now my youngest was a jokester, so I was like, all right, Elijah, I wanted a sign from Josh, but you're pushing it. But that was my first sign from Joshua. So,
Well, you didn't tell us this was going to be a story when you got into this. Back there, okay.
Hi, I'm Barbara. There's a lot of Barbaras in here. And I have a beauty salon, and my daughter worked for me before she passed. And I was cutting her son's hair, and we had the TV on, this electrical thing. And we were talking about his mom, and the TV went on. And I said, why didn't you turn the TV off? He said, I didn't, I thought you did. So I was like, thinking, Mom just visited us.
Yeah.
But I do miss, I feel like this, the dreams, I keep waiting, it's been 20 years, and she's never visited me in my
Well, you know, use the techniques that I have on the flyer to help with the dream visit. It really does help. Okay.
Hi, my name's Barbara too. Anyway, I don't know, someone might be in here from the fitness workshop that I was just in. And I asked my son Sean died 13 years ago to a car accident. He was 25. He's my only child. Anyway, we were in the fitness workshop, and they were giving away a Fitbit. So I said, Sean, if you're here, can you help me pull my name? I really need a Fitbit. So I won a Fitbit.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. This person here.
Our daughter Melissa died of breast cancer 9.5 years ago. And when she was in college, she wrote me letters. This was before cell phones and email, and she would write me letters. And every letter she signed, "Love you, miss you," and a heart. And the lady sitting next to me has "Love you, miss you," and a heart and a heart.
That's beautiful. Linda, do you have somebody?
We do. I'm not sure her name's Barbara. Should we get
My name isn't Barbara, but my name is Julia. I lost my brother, Colin, in 2016, July 1st. He had cerebral palsy, and so he couldn't walk and he couldn't talk. So that spring, we went down to Gulf Shores. We lived in Michigan, and so we were on spring break down there. Well, over the summer that we lost him, we had been seeing a bunch of frogs. We're like, well, that may be his animal because he could never use his legs, so he uses his legs. And so we've been seeing these frogs, they appear really randomly. And so while we were down in Gulf Shores, I have 4 other members of my family. My mom and my dad, both on different mornings, had a frog come out of the spout into their coffee cup while they were
No. Oh my gosh.
And then
What a validation.
I've done
hike, there was a frog, and it would ride with him. It rode with him.
Oh, that's adorable. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
And then also, I have one more. This is actually mine. I only drove once while I was down there. And the one time that we drove, we had just gotten back from the pier and the car had been completely sealed off. And on the dash, there was a little frog that sat the entire way while we drove back. And it was the only
Oh
time
my
that
goodness, that is so precious. Thank you for sharing that.
How do you top that one? I have a lot from my daughter, but the one that I'll tell you is the shortest story. Basically, we started this scholarship in her honor, or in her memory, and I had just signed the papers, and I was looking over the paperwork in our kitchen, and I had a wadded piece of paper on the island, and there's no ceiling fan, the windows weren't open, but as I am looking over the paperwork, I see the wad of paper move 6 inches.
Wow, I'm going to take a break for a minute because I want to have this guided meditation because it's so wonderful. It's a chance for you to be with your loved one. If you want to stay afterwards and share your stories, I'll be here because I don't think there's anyone coming in after us, and the big dinner is at 6, so we have time. So, okay, does that go with everyone? Oh, before we get started on the guided meditation, anything that you would like to say to your loved one, jot it down, okay? Jot it down. And there's some more handouts here if you need a handout.